Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have another Christmas card to share with you and I'm using my favorite things and Mama Elephant for this one. First of all, I'm starting with my image and this one is from Dashing Deer, a truly gorgeous stem set by My Favorite Things, and I'm using the Ink on 3 Noline Coloring Fadeout ink. I'm going to do some Noline coloring with my Copic markers, which is not something that I do often. I find it really hard to color with Copic markers, and I find it also really hard to get some definition and some oomph into my images when I'm using my Copic markers. But I have seen on Instagram that a lot of people actually happen to use also color pencils to let something shine after they use their Copic markers. So today I'm giving that a go. I also showed it in the previous video, but actually I did this one first to try it out. So this was my first experience with it. And actually I like it. As you see here, I'm really taking my time to go over the lines that are there with the ink, as I find it difficult to see where every line actually is once you go over it. So I prefer taking it step by step and really first add some depth by my darker shadows onto these images and then go with my lighter. The paper that I'm using today is Neenah 110 to color on, which works perfectly with Copic markers, although you need to watch out that you are not oversaturating the paper, because then it might bleed outside. Now there aren't any lines today, but still you want the image to be as it was supposed to be. So I'm going to color this reindeer completely with Copic markers, and then I will take a few pencils to add a bit more depth towards this image. I must admit I'm not there yet. I like already how it turned out, but I definitely need to exercise a bit more. But who knows, you are already really good with pencils, and then you can really let your images shine when you combine those two together. So I'm almost done with my reindeer. Also something that I experience when doing no line coloring with, for example, the distress inks, what I do often, is that you can see the lines much longer. That's also the beauty about this ink. You will definitely not see any lines anymore in the end, and that's wonderful. But while coloring, I really like the fact with the distress inks that antique linen is somehow showing still. But the end result of this one I truly adore as well. So when I'm doing no line coloring with my Copic markers, I definitely would always go for this ink. I'm not using a distress ink to stamp out my images when I'm not using distress inks to color it in. That's how I prefer it. I have never tried to use antique linen when I was going to do no line coloring with Copic markers. So I can also not really tell you how that seems or is, but yeah. So the color pencils that I chose sort of were on the darker color that I used for my Copics. So I have the 174, 176 and 182. These are Faber-Castell Polychromos pencils, but if you have watercolor pencils or another kind of pencil, you don't need Polychromos to do this. Online I've seen a lot of people using Prisma watercolor pencils to add more definition. Whatever you have on hand, this will work as well. So I'm just going actually over the places where there is more shadow, and then I go a bit further than the shadow just to make it a bit more fluffy maybe, I don't know. I actually really like the addition of the pencil, so I think if I do no line coloring with my Copics, then I will definitely check out the pencils that I can use to help myself create it and make it a bit more pretty. I have taken a matching die to cut this deer out, and now I'm going to stamp out all my leaves. I'm using one leaf out of this stamp set and I'm just stamping it out using Versamark clear embossing ink, and then I will use the Ranger embossing powder clear to heat set everything, and afterwards I can start ink blending. For the ink blending today I am using peeled paint, crushed olive, forest moss and mowed lawn, which are truly gorgeous green colors, and I think they fit perfectly with the scarf and the hat of my deer. So once everything is heat set I can start doing the ink blending, and then I have a lot of die cutting to go because these are a lot of leaves. So I cut everything out, and I also cut down 2 strips of the Petite Gingham paper pad by My Favorite Things, one of my favorite pattern paper packs ever, in the green from the scarf a little bit. I also die cut this panel. This is done with the Sweet Feline by Mama Elephant, one of my favorite dies from Mama Elephant, and I'm just blending a little bit of antique linen from the edges towards the middle, but I'm just only going on the edges and softening it out towards the rest of this panel. For the sentiment, I'm going to do some heat embossing. So I'm first stamping out my sentiment using Versamark clear embossing ink, and then I will use my NUVO embossing powder, classic gold, because this fits perfectly with green in my opinion. So some gold and some green, ideal for Christmas. I'm tapping off the excess and I'm going to remove some with my paintbrush as well as with my craft knife. I have one tiny powder that is like in between my leathers, and if it's so small, the area where I need to remove something, I prefer using my craft knife to just scratch it off. Heat setting everything, and now I'm onto my wreath. To help me with my wreath, I took a circular die. This is from the Basic Circles by Mama Elephant, if I'm correct. And I'm just going to add all these leaves on top of it. I don't want the wreath to be the perfect circle. I want it to look a bit organic, so I'm just going to build it up as I go, not really have anything planned. But I'm using some liquid glue on the bottom of the leaves each time, and then the top I will just let it be loose. You can always zhuzh it, as Laura says, but it's going to be bulky enough for me, so I'm not going to zhuzh it anymore because I'm going to add some details later on, I'm wiggling all the leaves a bit, and then I'm placing my last one. And then I can continue with my reindeer. This one I will put in the middle of the wreath using some thin foam squares from Scrapbook Adhesives. And once that's under, I can continue with my card base. So for the card base, I'm first going to add these slivers of the pattern paper on the sides. And then I will trim off the excess with my paper trimmer, and then I can add my panel on top of the card base as well. The panel itself, I'm going to lift it up a bit using some foam tape, and I'm also going to use some liquid glue on top of the foam tapes to give me some wiggle room. For the final details, I was dotting between these gem stickers, which are adorable, and some NUVO drops. And I decided actually to use the NUVO drops, but then something went wrong. It had been a while since I used drops. You probably can't remember it anymore, or maybe I even didn't share any cards with them. But I tried it out, I love the color, and when I tried to add it to the berries sort of, it really wasn't working. I think that my craft room is a bit too cold for these drops. So yeah, it was all stiff, it didn't want to come out, it didn't want to form just the regular cute bubbles that you can create with it. So I decided to try to scrap it off because my card was almost finished and panic started to kick in. But in the end, with the craft knife, I actually succeeded in scratching it off, and it didn't really do anything with the embossing. So that was also something really nice, because I was also afraid that I would lose the embossing powder that I melted on top of it. But now I had like those really soft pinkish residues still, so there was only one thing to do. I was taking my gem stickers as I was contemplating previously, and I just went over those red spots. And yeah, once you get going, you just can't stop. So this whole wreath got covered with the really dark red ones and then the sort of goldish yellowish ones. And I'm actually really happy with it. Of course, there are a lot of gem stickers. I actually used all the gem stickers I had from these two colors. By the way, the gem stickers I'm using by Honeybee Stamps are the Holiday Traditions. There are so many gorgeous gem sticker packages, and I have a lot of them. I haven't used them a lot. I only used this one so far on 2 cards with this included. But now I have the hang of it, so probably there will be more. But I just completely filled this wreath with the 2 colors, and I really was lucky that I had just enough gem stickers. In the meantime, while I am sharing this only now, I already bought a new package of these Holiday Traditions, because I need to have every color in my craft room. Cannot run out. So yeah, and once all these gem stickers are on top of it, this card is finished. So I really had a lot of fun creating this card. It was a bit out of my comfort zone with the wreath, and yeah, then we had this hiccup with the NUVO drops, but it worked out fine. I'm really happy with the end result also of the coloring from my deer. So I hope that you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed the ride of creating this card. If you have any questions, you can leave them down below. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you back soon. Bye!